I'm here today with Oliver Sinclair. Oliver's in our consulting team at Crimson, and you're here to share with us, Ollie, all the latest updates on the Power Platform for the spring update for 2022. Must be a busy time for you. What have you got to share with us?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, there's been quite a lot of new updates in this wave release. I think the general themes are that Microsoft are really trying to focus on making some of these user journeys as simple as possible. So it's really trying to reduce the clicks, reduce the amount of app switching that you have to do. So if you're in a certain application and you're using or sharing some records from somewhere else, or you're using a new bit of functionality, they're trying to combine all of this information together. So it doesn't really matter where you are, you can easily get to the right feature or the right information presented, using all of these different apps. So on that, I'm going to start with Power BI. So there's some really good stuff that's happening in Power BI space. The background you can see behind me actually is an example of what the new Power BI experiences are going to look like within Teams. So if you can see that on the screen, there's obviously you're still in Teams. I'm in a specific channel here, and I've gone into a specific page, and I've actually embedded a Power BI report in there. So rather than somebody coming on to Teams and saying, yeah, I've just published the report, guys, all of our numbers are looking great, or all of our opportunities need to be, there's some attention needed, and then there's a hyperlink, and then everybody goes, great, okay, I'll click on that hyperlink and disappear down into Power BI. You kind of lose the context, you lose the conversation. So embedding these reports and being able to access the feature-rich functionality of Power BI within Teams means you're not switching and jumping through screens. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I know that I've created a Power BI before and created a tab within Teams and been able to view the report. What's different about it this time? There's clearly something that was going on in the background, maybe for the report I had previously.
Yeah, so this is just if you remember back in Ignite last year, they were talking about Microsoft Loop and these sort of components being able to sort of being pushed on here. I think this is an example of some of that functionality, sort of bringing it specifically for the Power BI. So this, rather than just being able to view it, you have the full control of clicking through and actually accessing and changing the filter parameters and doing the things that you would expect to do within Power BI dashboard. So you would be able to go ahead, and it's not just you just see it and that's all you can do. You can interact with that and sort of change the filters and really interrogate the data, which is really, really good.
Amazing. Okay, fantastic.
The cool thing is it's not just for Teams. So yes, Teams is a big focus, obviously, for Microsoft, considering the number of users that are now using that. But if you were to look at, say, for example, just zoom out of there, it's the same sort of elements in terms of enhancements for Power BI integration within Outlook. So again, if you can see behind my screen, you can see that I'm in Outlook here, and I have been sent an email that has actually got a Power BI report referenced, and you could go ahead and then just very similar to what you can see in Teams, you can go ahead and access the Power BI report whilst you're still in Outlook. So again, it's reducing that amount of app switching and making sure that the functionality is available as and when you need it. So if you are answering to an email and somebody's talking about a report, you can go ahead and view that all in one place, rather than see the email, hyperlink, whatever it may be, and they've taken a screenshot of the report and attached it to the email. This is more of the a totally interactive element, and you don't have to be switching between those apps. So really, really good.
Fantastic.
The other one is around the scorecards. So within Power BI, you've got these really cool reports that are around scorecards, where you specify your goals and have a look at the progress of those goals based on some numbers within Power BI. What's going to be really, really good, I haven't got a screenshot of that, but there will be integration, or to be able to embed these Power BI scorecards within a PowerPoint presentation. So again, obviously, rather than taking a screenshot and chucking it in there, if you've got a presentation, say it's like a monthly update, or or a weekly update on your figures and your golden targets for your team, you have that PowerPoint presentation that you skip through every time, and you know that the data is up to date because it's actually embedded within the Power BI. So again, rather than when you're doing your presentations, rather than switching screens like I am here, if you have a PowerPoint presentation, you would just be able to run through that and again be able to utilize that functionality. So really the main focus from Power BI is there's really cool features of Power BI, and it's trying to expose it in all these different areas and all of these different applications, so it can be used in the right way. So really good.
Yeah, I can really see us using that actually. That's a fantastic addition.
So the other thing to talk on is really that I would say this wave release, I'd say there's the vast majority of the updates are really in two areas. One of the areas that I'm going to talk about now is Power Apps. So there is a lot of things going on in Power Apps. There's a lot of things that are in preview, there are a lot of things that are coming through. Disappointingly, there's not much in the early access features. The early access features are slightly disappointing. There's really only offline sync notification, which is really good. And this is sort of a smarter way of how Power Apps mobile is going to be ready, and the synchronization of that. It's a little bit more intuitive, which is going to be really good. Apart from that, there's a couple of things on the grid control, which is sort of how you view a list of records, and some really minor UI improvements around the business process flow, where there's literally just a line in which you can see is now even more distinct line on the business process flow. So a little bit disappointing in the early access features, but some of the preview features are really, really good. The first one I want to look at, actually, anybody can try if you go ahead and download this, but effectively Power Apps is now ready for sort of you've got a Windows app, and you can actually install Power Apps on your Windows device and access it rather than going through the browser and accessing your apps, or if you're on your phone, going through the install Power Apps device element. Same principle with Windows now. So you can go ahead and create install the apps, and once you've logged in, you will then have the ability to see all of your apps that you have access to within your environments. So you can go ahead and play with that. So the same functionality exists. It's exactly the same as going through the browser, but this obviously has the ability. You're in Windows, native Windows, and you can go ahead and play with your apps that way. The good thing is it completely supports offline. So if you are on your laptop and you don't have access, internet access, yes, you can still use Power Apps, and it's okay for model-driven apps, and it's also okay for, as you can see, it's full functionality. It's okay also for Canvas app just there and model apps, so everything is supported. It is in preview at the moment, but we're hoping that that's gonna come through. But that's going to be really another useful element of how to access Power Apps and making it easy. It's a really funny one, because we've been playing with sort of browsers within Dynamics for ages, really since the thick client days of Microsoft Dynamics CRM, and we've been browser heavy ever since, really. And it's just funny that we're going back again now, and it is for the right reasons, to be able to access these apps really, really quickly, and having it native to your laptop or to your PC. But it's just funny that we're now working with clients again, which is quite funny.
Okay, so some minor tweaks there. Do you think that's a hint that maybe the later release in the year will be a much more substantial one, or doesn't it tend to work like that in the Microsoft
Yeah,
roadmap world?
I've got a sneaky suspicion that they're holding some of this stuff back for some of the major conferences. So we saw this last year where the wave releases were, some really good stuff. There's a lot in preview that have, throughout the months, May, June, and July specifically. There's going to be a lot of functionality coming through, but it does feel like there's some really key elements that they're holding back on and maybe being announcing in some of the conferences. So we'll have to wait and see. And so they may be between the wave releases. There should be some new announcements, certainly on the Power App side. I'd expect to see that.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff.
Yeah.
What else have we got then?
Yeah, so there's some other things that a little bit more UI centric in Power Apps, but this is really just allowing us to be a little bit more focused with our apps. One of them is, if I just navigate to, this is just a very straightforward application. There is a community example where I've got some community commitments and some involved customers. Where I have a contacts here, so I've got Zaya. So if I look at that, that's just a very straightforward record. What we're going to be able to see very soon is co-presence within an application, and that means that I'm at the moment I'm the owner, but what you would see up here is a little bit more of an image that would be, if I can find it. It would be more, very similar to what you can see in Teams and some of those other areas. You will be able to see who's actually viewing or editing records at the same time as you. Now that's absolutely brilliant from a collaboration perspective, because if you know Tony, for example, is editing the same record, you can go ahead and you can send an email or you can start a Teams chat. So again, back on what we were talking about earlier around having these applications kind of surface other functionality from other applications, but keeping you in that one screen so you're focused on what you want to do. This is a really good example of that, where you can actually see a load of people working on the same record as you, and then you can start a Teams chat, and that would be all as a part of the application, and then it opens up a side panel and away you go. You can start chatting and start talking about the record that you guys are on. So really useful stuff coming through in terms of collaboration for that one.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think with we've talked about this before, in that a lot of the UI decisions are based around the data that Microsoft's always collecting, and they must have learnt an awful lot over the last 2 years with so many people using Teams and seeing how people collaborate, and that must be starting to come out in some of their decisions.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It really is. It's funny. 3 years ago, maybe there was a whole team of people, working on some sort of sales initiative within Dynamics, and then all of a sudden they're on the same record, and you would just pop your head over the boundary and say, "Hi guys, is anybody looking at this opportunity or this contact?" And a couple of people go, "Yeah, okay, well let's go have a meeting about it." Whereas now, because we're all so remote, this is going to enable that same sort of discussion point, that same element where actually you can see within the app people are working in the same area. Okay, let's go have a chat about it. So yeah, really good. I'm glad that these sort of improvements are coming in, and it's just going to make everything a lot easier to collaborate on, and effectively that's really where Microsoft are trying to help out as much as possible. The other small UI elements, which is hilarious, because we've been, I guess, in the partner channel, and some customers that have adopted the Power Platform have probably been a bit annoyed that the activity side of Dynamics has I guess there's things in which when you create a type of table and you specify that as an activity, some things are ultimately inherited, and sometimes it's actually very difficult to split these things up. One of those areas is actually if I just want to create an activity against a certain record, but I don't want this massive long list of different types of activities that I'm never going to use. The really good example is the fact side. You know, there's a facts activity which I don't think anybody really uses, but it's just been there because when Dynamics or when the Power Platform initially in its early years, there probably was facts elements and things like that. So there's this new activity going on here where you can actually filter that list to be the specific ones that you're looking for, and it's really on it's on the application level. So I've got here as a community example as my application. The only activities that I'm really dealing with are appointments. So I've added that into the application as a table that want to be viewed and functioned, and therefore this, when I'm clicking on new activity, the only thing I can choose is activity. So I'm not sort of having to filter through a load of activities or custom tables that I would never want to be creating. You can go ahead and create them there. So it's really, really good. Also the really useful thing, again, we're talking about collaboration. Say, for example, if you're using your co-presence and you're chatting to a guy that's also using on that record or has some interest in that record, you can go ahead and create an appointment, but natively set up a Teams meeting. So that Teams meeting will be there and obviously linked to your your invites. And really, really usefully, we've also got a little bit more UI in terms of a feature-rich free text field there. So very, very similar to what you probably expect to see in an email. So there's some additional UI elements there. So looking really, really good for this release.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay. Any more?
Yeah, there's just a few more things that are obviously in terms of the actual sort of the builder or the citizen developer or the builder benefits. There is one more element which is going to be really, really useful. It kind of already exists within Dataverse for Teams, but it doesn't exist in core Dataverse, and that is the ability to create tables with the Table Hub Designer. Now, if anybody's used Dataverse for Teams, and they'll be probably quite familiar with this, if you already have a set of data, say in a spreadsheet, for example, and being able to create a table on the fly with this data, it's just a much easier way of being able to very, very quickly create a table and make relationships with other tables in this sort of designer. So this is just, again, a screenshot of what it's going to look like. But this is going to be really, really useful for when this rolls out to full Dataverse rather than just Dataverse for Teams. So really looking forward to that one as well.
Fantastic, fantastic.
And to be fair, that there's still a lot in Power Apps that I haven't shown. Obviously, everybody should really go and have a brief read through of the release notes that Microsoft come out. There's some things that I haven't talked about, calculated columns within Dataverse as well, and the new features of the new designer. So they're trying to bridge the gap on the having to switch into classic view on the application designer as well, but I won't go into too much detail on that today. There's also some other things in the Power Apps portal. Again, not a huge amount within the Power Apps portal, but some really good stuff. A couple of years ago, we had a new type of field type or column type, a couple of column types that have been created, image and field columns. They're now supported within Power Apps portal natively, which is really, really useful, certainly if you're running through things where you're asking your customers to provide, or load some sort of image or a specific file. You're able to do that without sort of maybe navigating away into blob storage or into holding them against annotations. So that's really, really useful. Also, from the Power Virtual Agent side, one of the real pain points of Virtual Agent was using connectors. So if you had to consume some information or send some information out, you would always have to create Power Automate behind the scenes with Virtual Agent. But actually, you can now use your connectors within the virtual agents. So so that's going to be brilliant. I think you can also author custom connections as well. You don't have to then rely on them triggering Power Automate to control that flow, which is really useful.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you were going to mention. Was there anything more on AI Builder that you wanted to cover, or?
Yes, there was. Yeah, so AI Builder, there's some really good stuff happening in the AI Builder space. There's two ones I want to just very quickly mention. Is the support for unstructured documents. This really is going to help out in terms of when you're using AI Builder and trying to maybe consume text, consume text and information, or trying to work out what kind of document this is. You are able to sort of really spit any sort of formatting or any sort of document, and it will with the AI, a really learned AI will be able to extract some of this information for you on unstructured and structured documents, which is really good. The other thing to say is that the load models. So if anybody is using AI Builder, the image recognition elements of AI Builder, you can actually now download the Lobe application to be able to train your models on images, so you don't have to consume a lot of AI Builder license consumptions by training up your image recognizer. So you can actually download that as an application on your device, and then start training those things up. When it's good, you can then publish those models into Dataverse and to be able to be consumed by your AI Builder sort of flow. So that, again, really useful from being able to really quickly get up to scratch with image recognition, specific image recognitions you guys are using, without using without having to cost a lot to do, which is really good.
Yeah, definitely an area for everyone to look out for as we see more developments with that within AI. Ollie, is that everything for us this today? Yeah,
That's pretty
absolutely.
much it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, thank you very much. Well, as always, if you are a client of Crimson's, then of course, please speak to your account manager if any of these areas are of interest to you at the moment. You should already have received an email detailing what to do with updates. If you are interested in the Power Platform, you're not using it already, we have a very close relationship with Microsoft, and we're able to sometimes access proof of concept funding as well, so we can experiment with ways in which to build really interesting apps, and we could get hopefully Ollie involved with that as well. So I think that's it today. Ollie, thank you very much for your time. No, you're always busy, so we appreciate it. And I will just to say I'll reference the further information that was referenced today below in the YouTube channel. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day.
Brilliant. Thanks. Bye.
Cheers.